But we actually started with the fitter measured my arms.
Dave, if they put you on a scale, I'd be somewhat concerned.
They put me on a scale? Why wait a minute.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is episode number 87 of No Putts Given. I'm Miranda, and I've got Tony, Chris, Harry, and also Dave Wolfe, a longtime MyGolfSpy writer. Dave, how you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we've been trying to get you on for a while, and you keep avoiding us, so we finally got it.
It's early on the West Coast, so...
He has to wash his hair.
Get that cream on that beard.
Are you in your garage right now?
I am. It's my place where I can hide in the house when the rest of the family is still asleep.
All right. Cool stuff. Well, I want to jump right into it. Since we've got you this week, Dave, you've got an update for us. You're our putter expert, and you have the new Cobra 3D putter line in hand, right?
I was able to see it at a shop this week. So this one that I hadn't been able to roll previously. And so it was interesting to really get my fingers into it to look at how the 3D printing was used. And I think what was surprising for me was the sheer size, that they were much, much larger than I anticipated. And that's not something necessarily new, that there's been large-headed putters out there for quite a while. Thinking the Dock 12 comes to mind as the large old ping.
The satellite antenna.
Yeah.
And whatever Brian Harmon uses. Yeah.
It's one of those things that, and I believe this with any putters, that you're going to have people who will gravitate towards them because of the large size, other people who are still living in the land of bullseye who will be offended that they even exist. And it may be something that the next incarnation gets tweaked a little bit. I understand the size thing, that you want to maximize MOI by pushing all the metal to the edges, and the 3D printing really helps with that. It's just that for me and my aesthetic, they were a little rough visually.
Guys, we talked about the new vintage and 3D putter lines a couple of weeks ago on No Putts Given, and we got into whether or not the 3D printing is the future of not only putters, but maybe golf club design moving forward. Dave, what did you see from the 3D printing aspect of it?
Well, there's nothing else that looks like them, and I think for sure, as far as manufacturing goes, it's amazing that they're able to incorporate that, and switching from the printed metal to the printed nylon to save weight. I believe that everything that's going on there to manufacturing direction is innovative and fantastic. And this is going on 3D printing regardless before Cobra threw it out, is the quick prototyping that can be done. Not dealing with Cobra, but talking to the folks at Odyssey about the design process. You'd be amazed at how many different prototypes just to fix the sound. If you have different pieces of metal in different places on the head, they make different tones. And if you're basically a putter that yells at you, no one wants to buy that. So you have to make sure.
Unless it's a driver.
So
Yeah.
3D printing allows you to speed up the process. The issue comes that you're going to have some hits and you're going to have some misses. That's just the nature of any design. And I think the Cobra putters, top of my head, I'm not remembering the model, but it's the big spidery one.
The Ajera, is that?
Yeah, it looks like it's a giant square of steel.
With just, some couple of fins trailing.
Yeah, it's like the Karopi. Is that the little silly frog? That whatever. It was a little much visually.
Dave, we know that people don't buy just off of looks; they buy off of feel. How do they feel? Well, I felt their putter beforehand, and I loved the way it felt. It was soft, rolled really true.
You tested the one that was the fully 3D printed.
Correct,
head, not the insert. So a little bit different.
Yeah, slightly different, but still intrigued.
I think they feel good. I think that's the piece. The only gripe I have is walking around the corral and just going, oh, damn, what's that? Well, first of all, it did grab my attention. Then I went over and grabbed it and started rolling balls with it once I realized what it was.
When you say they're big, give us like a reference. Like a normal putter is this big and this one is that big.
Direct force, those spaceships.
Yeah, it's like spider and a half, maybe.
I was gonna say, let me
Spider and a half.
let me put it to you this way, Dave. If you ordered a hamburger and the hamburger came out and it were the size of the putter, how excited or disappointed would you be?
Well, it's kind of a Fuddruckers putter then.
There we go.
Fuddruckers is still around.
Fuddruckers reference. My goodness.
It's Daddy Longlegs side. that it's a
Huh.
bigger head. And honestly, if you get a tape measure out and you measure it, it might be the exact same size as everything else. But that was the overall initial impression was just like, damn, what is that?
I agree. Like whether it is like if you put a tape measure on it, whether or not it measures as a huge footprint, it looks like a huge footprint. And then contrast that the PXG Blackbird, which I saw it in pictures. I'm like, man, that thing looks like this massive, really weird kind of oversized mallet. And then I got it in for the Fujikura shaft testing we're going to be doing, and I'm like, huh, it's very, very small, or at least small looking compared to that Cobra. So yeah,
that Blackbird is definitely much smaller than it looks in photos, and it is the other end of the spectrum. It's nice and compact, and it's got all the tungsten pushed to the edges to get rid of the need to have the overall head be large.
I think it's probably pretty intentional, right? I mean, Cobra knows what they're doing. And to the point, Dave, where you said, you got however many, 20, 30, 40, 100 putters in the putter corral at the store, and you're walking around, and, you have to do enough to get noticed, but not so much that people notice and go, oh, God, the hell is that thing?
Dave, if you had to take out your crystal ball and predict how it'll do in future most wanted testing, what do you think?
I think they'll do well. I think that design-wise, they have everything that they would need to perform well. The piece that is really, really good about it being so visually striking is that, like Chris is saying, folks are going to walk over and pick it up, and they're going to roll it. And maybe if the reputation for these putters builds up, they could do a blackout version where it's not screaming, the top of this is metal, this helps with MOI. It could be much more subtle, but I think they'll do well. I don't see anything in them outside of someone putting it down and just going, oh God, I can't even look at this.
we talk about that all the time, right?
We struggle with that in testing all the time. I mean, we see products that perform well but look like crap.
What's the correlation, right?
Yeah, there isn't really any correlation anymore.
Yeah.
But I mean, in testing last year, we had the Sick putter that did really well. They've got the Cobra and the Sick face technology in them. So I don't see them not performing well in 2022.
The only thing I'd add on that is that sitting behind me somewhere is the Ping catch. And when the catch came out, it did not look like anything else that Ping had produced.
It's true.
Wasn't even included sort of in their official launch lines. It was thrown in at the end like they had done with the Sydney and some other putters. And when I was testing that in the way back when, people looked at it and they're like, oh, that's odd. I don't know about that. And then all of a sudden it was making every single putt from 5 feet. It was the same thing that people really liked the blackout Newport 2 that we had. Like, oh, this is a sexy looking putter. The one that made the most putts was that odd catch. So I feel like I want to back it up a little bit in giving Cobra grief for making these look so odd. At the same time, I applaud them for making them odd, for doing something completely different, because that's the only way we're going to end up with something new. And I wouldn't be shocked at all if these perform really well in the testing.
All right, so we'll have to stay tuned. We've got a little while before putter testing starts up again. I hope.
6 months.
Yeah, 6, 8 months.
A little while.
Yeah, there you go.
So on Friday, Dave, we've got your article on the Edel fitting that we sent you through. So I hope you can give our audience a little bit of a sneak peek and a preview, because they do fitting a little differently, right?
They do. It was very, very interesting that I had done an Edel fitting 2011, I believe was the first time. And the old fitting cart was amazing. It was this clamshell case that once you open it up, there were about conservatively 6 million putter pieces inside of it. There were heads, necks, and shafts. They actually had the frequency filtered shaft in there. And what was super fun about that fitting is the person who fit me was actually Tim Tucker. So Bryson's caddy was an Edel fitter way back then. I'm sure he made way more money with Edel than he's making on tour now, so he regrets switching. But so we sat and went through the process, and I ultimately didn't even buy a putter that day, because what I learned was the one I was currently using, which was a custom Byron Morgan at the time, I aimed correctly. A couple of weeks ago now, I met with one of their fitters, Kevin, at Contra Costa Country Club here. That's I have to throw fancy country club in because that's not my bag. But shirt was tucked, wearing pants. It was very exciting for me.
To clarify, you mean not sweatpants too, right? Actual.
Right.
No, they might have had a pleat. I don't even know. It was crazy.
A
I've
real
been away
pleat?
from work for a year and a half. Pants are very alien these days. So the interesting thing about this fitting is, once again, Edel is huge on aim, and that was a big part of the fitting. But we actually started with the fitter measured my arms.
Yeah.
Huh. What's your wingspan? Would you be a good swimmer?
So that I could almost understand, because then you want to figure out length of shaft.
Forearm
versus upper arm is what he was measuring.
Yeah, ratio.
Liam Mucklow's huge on that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's that? Pipes. The interesting piece was that, so my arms, and this is something that in my entire life I've never measured, never knew, never thought I needed to know the difference between upper arm and lower arm, but mine are the same length, which I guess is fine.
Mine's looking very similar.
I know, now you're all going to be. So
this edition of No Putts Given, where we measure Dave's body parts. Great, here we go.
You can lick your elbow, then you know that your upper arm is shorter.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, there's no way you can lick your elbow. If your arms are the same proportion like mine, what that means is that the butt of the putter should end up pointing at your torso, and that you're going to putt best with a grip that's very neutral.
What do you mean by a neutral grip?
So
what would
hands
a
on both
non-neutral...
sides.
Okay.
So instead of being strong or
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And should your arms be, say, your forearm is longer than your upper arm, or your upper arm is longer than your forearm, it changes that fit. So now you might perform better with the putter that points more towards your shoulder line or below your torso line, and then weakening or strengthening your hands. The takeaway from this, and this is big, that David Edel is into biomechanics, and there's lots of research that backs up what they're doing here. If you have a putter that doesn't fit your arms, your chance of actually swinging that putter correctly drops off dramatically. But that's the theory behind it. Right. And I
Has anyone heard this from any other putter fitting that they've gone through, or is this entirely unique to Edel?
I haven't heard it with putter fitting, but as I said, Liam Mucklow, who he coaches some tour pros, he just does a lot with fitting. Part of the Foresight team, developing their software products as well. So heavily entrenched in all things in that fitting space. And for years, he's been talking about that same relationship as it relates to driver fitting and figuring out shafts and things like that. So this is not completely foreign to me by any stretch. First time I've heard about it in putter fitting, but it stands to reason that it would apply to every club in the bag, right?
It makes sense, doesn't it? I mean,
I've been through a couple of Edel fittings as well, and one as recently as this year. You hear a lot of different fitters. They will take into account certain biomechanical realities of the person they're fitting. Now, what I would say is different about Edel is that is like the foundation and the blueprint for everything that they do. Like the first kind of part of the screening that you're doing when you're fitting isn't, hey, do you like the way this head looks? This, and this. It's like walking into more of a doctor's office. Like, okay, we got height, weight, wingspan, this length, that length, da-da-da-da-da. And
Dave, if they put you on a scale, I'd be somewhat concerned.
they put me on a scale. Why what did they? Wait a minute.
Because they're curious about how many TubSpy ice cream tubs you've had.
I think they were just taking bets, Chris.
They had a Clydesdale edition putter they were looking at and wanted to know if I could handle it.
So what was next?
I've done, I don't even know, a dozen-ish putter fittings over the years. And I think everyone who plays golf understands how changing your grip changes the performance of the club, so that if you're looking at a stronger or a weaker grip and what that does, to think that your natural grip actually ties into the structure of your arm was mind-blowing for me. So that was pretty cool. It wasn't like Chris is saying that the start of your putter fitting is, which one do you like? Or I think even worse is you get stuck on a SAM lab immediately, and then the person looks at your swing path and is like, you have a terrible swing path. Like, oh, good. Thank you. I brought that up.
Do you fit for terrible swing paths? Like, help me fix it.
I think with any fitting, the best fitting analogy, club fitting or otherwise, comes from The Simpsons. And this may be a little bit in the weeds as well, but do you remember the episode where Homer becomes an executive?
Yes.
And he has his personal assistant?
Mm-hmm.
And they go to fit him for a suit. And he's sucking in his gut and trying to be as thin as possible. And the assistant says something along the lines of, "Stop that. That's not your job. It's his job to fix it," and points at the tailor. Everyone in a putter fitting brings their belly, and it's not the job in a fitting to get rid of your belly. It's the job of the fitter to go, "Oh, look, they're counterbalanced already. This will be an excellent head that will help with their natural midline counterbalance." So that I thought was very cool, is the Edel fitting in no way was trying to force me into anything, that it felt like an immediate assessment. I don't think at any point in the fitting did Kevin ever look at my swing path, or he probably did, and he may have thought things, but he didn't share that, which I thought was helpful. And the whole process was, we went through AIM, and it's a really cool system with lasers.
Wow, what did the lasers do?
To see where I'm aiming, right?
Yeah, so they take a green laser sitting in a fake hole, and then they aim it back at a golf ball. So you then address the golf ball, and there's a mirror on the face of your putter. So
Okay.
once you say, "Okay, I've got this aimed at the hole," they remove the golf ball, the laser hits the mirror, and then it bounces back at a little screen telling you where you were actually aimed.
Interesting.
For me, I thought, "Yep, I'm aimed right at the hole." As soon as they moved the ball the first time, I was high and to the right.
Yeah.
So I was aimed right, and I was manipulating loft to make it higher. So then with that same putter head, and this is the beauty of the EAS putters, is they've got these little inserts on the top, which visually, I'm going to say it, I don't know if I'm 100% on board with the look of the little square insert, but it allows them to very quickly interchange inserts for different alignment schemes. Kevin actually did it with a Sharpie and a template. And as you added lines either on the top or on the bottom, what I saw for me was where that laser was pointing started to change. Till finally, once I had 2 lines on top, 2 lines on bottom, when you took the ball away, I was aiming at the cup. Just above it is where the laser was hitting. So my loft was good, and my aim was where it should be.
I need to get involved in this. This sounds really up my alley.
I think what's interesting about it is, at one level, it's very complex, right? And if you talk to David for half an hour, like, you might feel like it's overly complex. Like I understood like maybe every third or fourth word he was saying. It's like okay, like he's operating on Bryson wavelengths or whatever. But when you get down to the actual fitting premise of it, it's very, very, very simple. You basically have straight lines and you have curved lines, and those do different things. And you have lines on top of the putter, like kind of the top line of the putter, or you have lines or things, shapes in the cavity of the putter. So you're either trying to get the putter to move more left or more right.
So it simplifies it for the golfer. However, there is a more complex reasoning behind it, but you as the golfer don't have to worry about it.
I've always been suspicious of the aim thing, or as I've learned more, like it makes sense, right? You need to be pointed at the target, but we all know that it doesn't matter what club you have in your hand. Just because you're pointed at the target at address does not mean you deliver that club pointed at the target. For some guys, it probably makes a huge difference, but I suspect it's one of those things that for others, pointing at the target either doesn't make a difference or could create some problems. So logically, yes. Real world, definitely not for everybody.
Well, and that's the piece of this fitting is, as soon as we were done with AIM, we went over and worked on basically seeing if I could hit the hole, and set up at about 6-ish feet. And knowing that I could aim the putter accurately, we started rolling balls. And I had the best grouping of the day with putts that all ended up about a cup to the right. And I just could not, even knowing that I was aiming it correctly, deliver the putter head in a way that put the ball in the hole. So they started tweaking with the weights in the grip and changing, be it a weight in the butt of the club or sinking weights further down into the shaft. So the final build for me was I ended up with a 50-gram weight about where my right hand sits on the grip, and then a 40-gram weight up in the butt end. And as soon as we hit that weight combination, I'm not going to brag, but I made 6-footers. That's right.
What a guy.
And I had the ability to aim it correctly and then actually swing it correctly. And in close, I will say that it's, because I don't know how many times I've played with it now, but it's amazing that I walk up to anything under 10 feet and it's 100% assumption in my brain that it's going in. The only issue I'm having with it right now is things that are longer. my notoriously short miss comes in. The most frustrating thing the other week was I think I missed 5 putts by combined 12 to 15 inches. The guys I'm playing with are laughing as I'm leaving another putt 2 inches from the hole dead center of cup. The issue is likely practice, which is unfortunate because no one wants that issue. But there is a little bit of adjustability in the bottom that I can swap out and put a 10-gram weight instead of the 15 that's in there right now. And that might give me just a little bit more of an
More
edge.
speed.
Well, the interesting thing about putting is a lot of it is to do with confidence. If you find yourself with a confident putter and you're in and around, 6 foot like you are, and you're thinking, this looks like a 1 footer now, that's huge. So for me, it's all about if I find a putter that I'm confident with, normally the scores and the putts correlate.
Where does the confidence come from? Like, what generates confidence in a putt?
Well, if I keep
making putts.
Yeah,
right,
making
exactly.
putts.
So
Yeah.
doesn't that go back to the fitting and performance side of it? Like, I can look down and be like, man, this putter gives me an awful lot of confidence. And if I consistently miss 3-footers, 4-footers, 5-footers, I'm not going to be that. I mean, it may be a Circle T Cameron that looks amazing, $2,500 putter, but to me, it's the results that determine the confidence in it. And said, I mean, if it's a toaster on the end of a stick and it makes everything from 10 feet and in, all of a sudden I'm going to look down at toasters and go, oh, I'm pretty confident in toasters. I think there's a psychological piece there, but I think it's rooted in performance first.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue with putters comes, I mean, and you guys, you have the same situation. Not everyone gets to putt with every putter in existence. To spend 10 years and finally figuring out that if they have a blade, they should always have a flow neck and not a plumber's neck. But you can also then get away with the long plumber's, blah, 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 putter design. Most people go, oh yeah, I need a putter. Look at that when it's on sale. Or they've heard of ping and then they get a putter and they're mad that it doesn't make the sound.
There might be more plop guys now. Who knows?
If you can do an Edel fitting, or if any fitting in that case, and if you're truly just trial and erroring your way through the putter corral, for someone to point you in the right direction and say, this is how you swing, this is where you should be gripping the putter. The other crazy piece, I don't know if it'll show up, is I actually have the round putter grip on here.
I was going to ask you about that, if you went with the round one or the
I did.
pistol.
I went with
one.
it primarily because it's an Edel thing, and so if I'm doing an Edel fitting, I'm like, just hit me with the lot. But also the whole fitting was done with the round grip, and I'm a sucker for smart people saying smart things, and David he's a smart dude, and he had data that showed that if you have a round grip where your hands aren't searching for those normal seams, that you're going to focus more on aligning the head than you are about aligning the grip to your hands. You may be fine with your grip on the putter that you've bought and been playing for 5 years, but as soon as you go to re-grip it, all of a sudden they put the exact same grip on and it's 1 degree off from where it was before. You're never going to make another putt in your life because you're trained on indexing with the grip and not indexing with the head. So that's the idea there. And be it drinking the Kool-Aid or whatever, this putter has been in the bag for, I don't know, 4 or 5 rounds now, which
is that a record?
It's pretty close, especially in the summer when I just have a rack full of stuff behind me. I'm like, oh, I want to play that. Oh, I'm going to play that. And it's honestly kind of irritating that I've got one putter that's working so well.
It's like Tony and driver shafts. Like,
shafts. I was going to say, I don't mess with the driver.
Well, Dave, instead of mailbag this week, I wanted to dig into everything that you've seen at MyGolfSpy since you started writing for us 10 years ago.
It's going to be a long episode.
Well, okay, maybe not everything. The best things. You mentioned the rack of putters behind you, but I want to know about some of the craziest, wackiest, weirdest things that you've seen in putters, or just in MyGolfSpy in general.
Yeah, it's interesting that to think it's been 10 years. Every time that rolls into my head, I feel old. My favorite thing ever, and it'll always be my favorite thing ever, is I did a project with Callaway for dropping strokes, working with an instructor, and basically they agreed to give a set of junior clubs to our local first tee for every handicap point I could drop. And I was a hack, I'm still a hack, but ended up dropping like 7 strokes. There's pictures floating around the forum of me holding up all these bags of junior clubs that I got to deliver to the first tee, and they just were able to give to kids.
That's
and
awesome.
That I think is probably going to be the favorite memory. But going to Ping and getting fit on Ping's amazing putter fitting monolith, that was astounding.
I think it's like this giant granite slab basically anchored to the core of the earth.
They built that slab before they built the rest of the building because they wanted to make sure that it was completely flat and never moving. It was, I mean, at least that's how I remember it.
Yeah, no, it's
That would make sense.
Putter wise, there's been so many crazy things. What jumps into my head first, and it's one that I haven't had much experience with, is the directed force putter or lab golf or whatever it's called these days. It looks like a playing card club, where it's that little.
Yeah, it's a lot going on.
And I think that, again, I've not had much experience with it personally, but I love that it exists. That's what I think got me into putters. And it was probably, if I'm going to pinpoint where the hooks came in, it was well before GolfSpy. It was actually Byron Morgan putters on Putter Talk in way back when, and looking what he was making and just saying, wait a minute, you can have a twisted neck. There's a long neck. I can get this in copper. The corner over there has got the wall hangers.
Can you give us like a 360? Are there putters everywhere?
It's a little, so we got past the Funkos, then there's some more hanging up over there, and then there's more over there.
So you don't actually put a car in your garage?
No, it's a 1947 house. We could only put like 3/4 of a car in the garage area.
How did you become our April Fool's guy?
I don't know. I was trying to think what the first one was, and it might have been the Titleist driver, where Adam did all the mock-ups.
The Scotty Cameron driver, yeah.
Yeah, the Scotty.
Oh, yeah.
With the design by Tiger Woods shaft and all that kind of stuff. And then the PXG.
The gold irons, right?
Yeah, the 24K, yeah.
And what's funny about that one is I feel like, as over the top as it was, that we actually dialed some things back. It might have been Tony saying we couldn't have baby harp seal grips.
Well, I think PXG got a lot of inquiries about those clubs when you did that, when we did that article.
Where they were at the time being nothing but apex predator pricing.
Yeah.
If they could have got gold heads out in time and slapped a premium on them, I think it would have worked. Chris, is it Hanma that makes gold heads?
Yeah, their whole Beres line, they have the star line 1, 2, 3, 4, and they have the, I call it's like the diamond encrusted, gold
platinum
plated
inlay.
Yeah, I mean, where you can spend, 5 figures, $20, $30, $40,000 on a set of irons, and that form and function conversation where the form has significantly outweighed the function of it. But yeah, they're out there.
The April Fool stuff is fun. It's funny that people get offended. My favorite thing for this year was that people who use iron covers were mad.
It's like,
and I've got a buddy that the picture that's in there, I think it was during that No Putts Given, that one of you said that it was my bag that had the blue iron covers on it. And that's actually my buddy's bag. So he bought new Mizuno irons and he put these blue covers on it, and he loves blue. That's his thing. And I just went, hey, let me take a picture of your bag. Why do you need that? Oh no, don't worry.
no reason at all.
As long as you're still buddies, everything's cool, right?
Oh, it's good. Yeah, we play together every Sunday and have for a decade. So
there you go.
The amount of trash talking, that's nothing compared to what's happened.
All right, Dave. Well, thank you so much for being on and updating us on the Cobra putters and giving us a sneak peek into an Edel fitting. I will link that article here. It comes out on Friday, so we don't have it for you yet. But that's some really great inside information. And I hope this is not your last time on No Putts Given, because now I think you can be a regular panelist anytime we talk about putters.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Thank you for having me on. I can get back into the garage just about whenever.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's about it for today's episode. Like I said, take a look at Dave's Edel fitting article. We'll link it for you when it's available. Until next time, we out.
And someone posted, Podrick Harrington said on his YouTube video, I'm sure, that bounce is the most overrated term in golf instruction. Regardless if that is true or not, bounce is on a wedge. You can't ignore it. It's on every club.
It's still there.
It's just there. So I just read that comment and thought...